And I don't care what they say about your gay blue bike. For the second perspective session, I had just the most profound meeting with our next presenter, Carlos Raimundo. Carlos is Argentinian. This sounds like a visit around the globe, doesn't it? I mean, seriously, we'd listen to the Irish if they had anything to say. Sorry, did I say that out loud again? So, you know, a medical doctor is our next presenter, and a psychiatrist who works in all kinds of fields, psychodrama being something he's done for many, many years. So, look up your children and your memories. His PhD, which he's completing, is in the area of 3D simulation, and I wanted to show you this because it's out there. But yet, when you see it, it's so elegant in its simplicity. So we've set up a camera, and Carlos, could I welcome you to stage for a minute? As you come forward, I want to tell people a little bit about you. He's an author. He works in leadership transformation by many of us, but he came to notice for me, in 2004 in New York, with a body of his colleagues and peers. Please join me on stage. He got the Innovators Award from the US group Psychodrama Association, which is no small feat. And when your peers acknowledge you, I think it's one of the greatest acknowledgements of all, because it says you've become a master in their minds. Ladies and gentlemen, could you welcome Dr. Carlos Raimundo? All right. I've always wanted to be like Andrew Denton.
Very good. I'm feeling invited, I think.
And so I want people to tune into your voice and your accent for just a minute. So let's tell people where are you originally from in Argentina?
I was born in Buenos Aires, and I grew up in Cordoba, and then went back to Buenos Aires, and from Buenos Aires came to Australia.
Has anybody ever been to Buenos Aires? Yes. What do you think of Buenos Aires?
Awesome.
And Argentinian people?
Oh, yeah.
But would an Argentinian person go? If I said, Argentinian people, what do you think of Argentina? They would be full of life. I'm thinking there would be some drama.
I love the drama.
I think you love the drama. And
melodrama.
You like melodrama?
I don't like it, but I love Argentinian melodrama.
There's yes. I can imagine. Carlos, I was thinking that we want to talk a little bit about the brain, and I've heard so many people talk about the anatomy of the brain, but you have just an elegant way to explain the idea of cognitive bias. Could you just take a minute and, you know, if you're into it, that's cool, but if you've never heard about it, just check into this for a little bit, how the brain works, and Carlos kind of knows.
The brain is something that fascinated me for many, many years. And but lately I was looking more and more at the brain. That is the research I'm doing, and I found that the brain can lie. So this was the topic of many of my presentations. The brain can lie, and when we're talking about intuition, for example, so can we really trust intuition? I said, I don't know, depends. Can we really try what I feel? Well, I don't know, depends. So when we find to that level, we find that the brain can really lie. And that is a little bit scary. And that happens because the brain needs to create a story, sometimes to cover other stories we have. With the ladies here, with the fantastic forum we have here, they were talking about the story behind the story. And this is exactly what happened in the brain. And we have experiences, people were saying, I was very happy, but it was underneath another story. It doesn't mean that the happiness was false. The happiness was there too, but it was also another story. So the brain, the neuroscience is showing that part of the emotions and the essence of reason in terms of memory, emotions and memory, is a story what is called the limbic system. And many people may have heard of that, especially from Goldman, where he started talking about emotional intelligence, and the amygdala was the biggest word that people start talking about. Well, this is part of the limbic system that resonates with emotions and makes me feel happy or sad. But it's not happy. It's happy means tells me when I am aligned with the principles of my life. It tells me that I'm satisfied in life. And when my life is outside that level, it tells me also that it's in that level. And that is through the creation of an internal hormone called dopamine. So when dopamine is high, I'm like this. Dopamine is low, I feel miserable, to make it simple. So when I feel miserable, that information, and of course I'm talking colloquially here, when I feel miserable, that information goes to the brain stem, that is the reptilian brain, and the body aches. And this is the
So
story.
you've introduced the limbic system, which you're saying is emotional, and then you're saying behind this...
Behind this, and older into the brain, is what is called the brain stem. That is called the reptilian brain too. That is the one that regulates the body function. So when somebody has a brain damage, and the person says the person is alive, physically, what they're talking about is that there is not cognition, there is consciousness, but the person is, the body is kicking. So, just to make it simple, when I feel happy, let's come back again maybe to happiness first. When I feel happy, satisfied, my life is aligned, that information goes to that part of the brain, and the body is okay. Even people with heart problems or diabetes or whatever, with a little bit of diet or simple medication, they feel okay. And everybody knows that. Even people with asthma, they're happy, they're okay. This information also goes to the cortex, to the neocortex, another part of the brain, the thinking part of the brain is more above. And the message is, I feel okay. So everything works well, happy.
So to understand this, you're saying, you introduced the limbic system, which is about the emotional,
yes.
The center. You've told me that the brainstem, which keeps me alive,
in the bottom,
is very much my fight or flight, so my emergency response system, and that those two work very closely together to sort of keep a form of status quo in the body. But humans have this third part of the brain, the cognitive function.
The cognitive part, that is the cortex. In reality, the three works together, simultaneously. So when I'm happy, satisfied, everything flows, and it's okay. It's interesting because it's a Hebrew word that is called shalom, that we translated as peace. But in reality, it's not peace, it's at peace. So when I'm in that place, even though I'm maybe facing big problems, the brain tells me I'm okay, it is okay. It's okay, I mean, I'm in control, I can deal with life. So this is what we're talking about. When I live my life outside of these parameters, I'm outside of line, I'm not happy, and you know what I'm talking about, that information also goes to the brain stem, and this is the origin, what in medicine is called psychosomatic disorders.
Okay, that's a big word. So what you're saying is,
it's good, huh?
if it's impressive. I've got to say,
I don't know what it means. But
no, but I would be dropping that whenever I could. Yeah. So, Carlos, what you're saying is, I love this, that shalom means at peace. And shalom, is that all good? We're good with that, to be at peace. Because you've spent a lifetime, your career has been about the elimination, I don't want to presume, but it seems to me it's the elimination of fear and the increasing of being at peace. Exactly. And the healthy functioning of these three elements of the human brain.
This is the essence. I think the essence for me, if I can put in short words, is how can we live in shalom? No, not at peace, but not in peace, but at peace. How can I find that level? So when I feel bad, the body aches with these big words, psychosomatic disorder. But so you know what I'm talking about, the different aches that we don't know what they're
So it's psychosomatic. It's depression.
The body
psychosomatic disorder.
The depression is more a psychological effect of that. Psychosomatic is more when people have digestive problems or heart problems or muscular problems, and they don't know where it's coming from. Okay. That information also goes to the cortex. And the fascinating thing is that the cortex cannot handle uncertainty. So we cannot handle the I don't know. So I need to create a solution, this I know. And to make this I know is what we create what is called a construct that blocks this negative information as a block, like this, and create a story. And that story is what is called the cognitive bias.
So you're saying your brain creates a story to be okay?
Absolutely. The problem is that this block also blocks the ability to celebrate life too. So it's not just that blocks the bad and allows the good, but it blocks almost everything.
We've got 10 minutes and I would like to get to the modelling in a minute, the 3D modelling. Before we do though, give me a specific application of how that might turn up in someone's life.
For us as thought leaders, that the focus here is about thinking. The idea is how to go to the thinking that is the story behind the story too. So if we are asking as coaches, we're talking at the lunch, the coaching and mentors, and when you ask somebody, how are you? The answer of how I am is in the limbic system. This is where the information is stored. But when I ask, how are you? That system is verbal and it's cortical.
So when, that word again, did you say variable?
Verbal. It's a word.
Oh, verbal, yeah,
yes.
Yeah, right.
So it's my accent.
It's a beautiful accent, by the way.
Okay.
I'm going to affect it when I get home later.
Good. So when I ask somebody, how are you? That information is here. But because this cognitive bias has a story, the person answers from here. I'm okay. And other persons I feel miserable, but it's a miserable because sometimes it's satisfying for many people to feel miserable, to feel pity. You know, some people dwell on that, and it's very appeasing actually, because creating.
Did you just say appeasing?
Appeasing.
Oh, appeasing.
Okay. No,
sorry, I know you're all good. This is just about me. I need some help, and this is a cheap way to get therapy. Is that right? Okay.
So. Whatever it is, I ask somebody, how are you? And the information that is here is answered from this area. So we can spend hours, years living in this level. And all the coaching process is how to get into here. And Goldman talks about the emotional intelligence, how to connect that part of the brain. And I was presenting at the Neuro Leadership Conference, and we're doing research on that. And everybody talks about how to connect that part of the emotions. Everybody says, go inside, go in, don't cut your life here. Go. So we have a lot of languages trying to help people to do that. The question is how to do it.
So, Dr. Raimundo, this is what you've kind of invented. You've come up with a process, or made it accessible at least, for people to start to get around the stories that people create, so you can get to the story behind the story,
exactly.
To see what's really going on. I think the best thing we can do in our final time, if you're up for it right now, and I know the room's with us, is let's showcase just some of the stuff you showed me, just maybe up on this table. Would you be willing to do that?
Ready.
Fantastic. Round of applause for Dr. Raimundo. This process that Carlos talks normally requires an hour of explaining beforehand. He's been very gracious to chop it up into sushi-sized portions for us this afternoon. So you just get a wasabi taste. How's that metaphor?
Okay. I'll tell you a story. This woman is called Jane. Jane is a leader in an organization, a senior leader. And she is feeling very unhappy at work, very tense. She explodes at any time, and she has her coach. And she said to the coach, I feel very lonely. I don't feel supported. Every time I ask for support, nobody really cares. And I feel alone in the company, especially now with so much pressure. I have less employees, and I feel really lonely. What is the picture you have of that person? Singular? Sorry? Isolated? Depressed? Is she a happy girl? No. So if we condition the story that she has created in her mind to be able to explain her feelings. Remember that I said before, the brain cannot handle uncertainty. So I cannot not create a story. And this is called a cognitive bias. So if I continue talking like this, it will be almost an endless conversation, and we don't have time here to show you more about the brain, how the brain works. It will be endless conversation. So the question is, how to go to the story behind the story. Would you think that would be a good idea?
Yes.
So instead of continue talking to the person, we have, for example, templates, different templates, and a method that I developed. It's called the 3D simulation. That you have to simulate, and we put it in the front like this, and we ask the person, instead of tell me, we have a magic word that we ask the person, show me. Show me how you feel. So instead of doing that, the person gets the figures, and I say, okay, I show you. I will put this board because it's a little bit bigger. Can you see this bit? Or is it okay? Can I see that? Here.
Can you see that sign?
Can you see that sign? Yeah? Can you see? Okay. We ask the person, show me. So the person, very quickly, and without talking too much, the person said, this is what I feel. I feel like this. I feel that everybody is like that in the company. The company is like this. And I feel that my problems are like this. What do you think? When she looked at this happened in 2 minutes or less. Exactly the time I use here. When she looked at this, she said, oh, she said, I asked the person, what can you see? I said, oh, she says, it's me that is facing back to them. So she realizes in a millisecond like this, that is she's the one that in moments of tension and anxiety, she becomes a controlling of her problems, and she loses the ability to connect with other people who are, she says, waiting for her to relate with the problem. What do you think? How long it will take you to find this for a person to recognize that? Long time. And the beauty of this is that the person is able to create, and don't do this very quickly because this looks very deceiving, looks very simple but it's not. The person has the ability to say, this is what I want. I really want to live my life. I like to work. In that case, I like to work with a team, with somebody who can share the experience. The experience. And in this process, you have all a technology very well written with the questions that are ready. We ask the person, what should happen here for you to obtain this? I says, I need people to come closer to me. And she said, for how long have you been waiting for people to adapt to you? What is the answer? All my life. So the question here is what is called the play of life is, what can you do?
What did you call it?
The play of life.
The play of life. Yeah.
The play of life is a colloquial term. The technical term is 3D simulation. And simulation is the essence for leadership. How can I simulate? So in that case, she said, I need to turn around. What is the coaching process, the mentoring process? It's no more, no less. That help this person to have an insight. And because this is triggering, give more theory, triggers what is called the mirror motor neuron in the brain. What is happening here is also happening in the brain. And this is the latest research. So when the person is doing that, and the person does this later on, and we have a technology how to do it, every time that she will do this information comes to the brain like this, and she's able to know, I need to do that.
That's brilliant.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
This is just a snapshot of how we can, in a simple way, not simplistically, bypass a cognitive bias to be able to access a part of the brain that otherwise is very hard to obtain. And we are knowing now why people who see that, they don't feel bad about it. There's a fantastic insight where real breakthroughs are happening. So we are not talking about change here. We're talking about transformation. So it's a transformation that happened for the person. This Jane says, but what I'm doing at work is exactly what I'm doing at home. Because this is the behavior that we are learning. So this is what is what's in my heart. How can we help people to have a better insight underneath the story? How to create a story that I want to live, passionate about. But the more important thing, what can I do to be able to make it?
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Carlos Raimundo. Thank you. Simple, elegant. And when I sat with Carlos, he showed me at least 7 personal applications and scenarios where you could just go, oh, imagine if you got that insight. And then 7 organisational ones that were just phenomenal. What I'd like you to do is take a moment and think, wow, play a life, the 3D drama stuff. Wow, where could that be useful in my life? Why don't you have a chat for just a minute? Round of applause.